Yeah, I think Verena and I are both interested in the relationship between the car, right? The automobile as an icon of American capitalism, and so where do these cars go? You know, when they are finished with, when they go to die, well, they go to a place like Willets Point in foreign parts, and they have a second life where they become this sort of torn apart, recycled, decomposed, and reassembled material for the livelihood of people from all over the world who make up that space. And the end of Western civilization, I think that is something was that vision of the place was always in the back of our mind, but we also saw it as a community where there was a dynamic sort of interrelation and integration between all of these people. So in one way, it's the death of something, but also the life and the life force of something else, which is this community of immigrants and outsiders and outcasts, the refuse of the death of that society. Well, I think just from our own personal background, I know Verena has traveled a lot in her life, and she has been in many different sort of social spaces. When I was growing up, I played in junkyards, not junkyards like that, but junkyards nonetheless in the American Midwest. So the sort of the built environment was something that was fascinating to us, but not completely unfamiliar. In terms of fitting in, I think, you know, at first, of course, there's maybe some suspicion or some mistrust or distrust or questions raised by these two people from the outside coming in with cameras. But eventually, you know, through time, through a kind of commitment, by showing up every season, on the rainy days, on the really hot days, on the cold days, we were always there. With our cameras. I think when you have that kind of investment of time and relationship, or the interest in opening relationships, people begin to open up and accept you as a part of the community. Also, they're really dedicated and they really admire hard work. Everyone there is working very hard, and they saw that we were carrying the camera and working very hard, so there was a kind of, the filmmaking became our kind of labor in the space, and that was something I think they could admire or at least respect. And, you know, we filmed all the time. We always had the camera with us, but we would also set it down and just be, you know, friends, just be human beings with the people that we were working with. And so that also allows a kind of rapport to form. And, you know, I think the film itself, if you watch the way that it's shot, the way that's put together, it's really a film that was made less about the community and more with the community. We took our cues from, you know, our sort of filmmaking cues, our production cues from the people that we were working with. Willets Point is still there. We were just there in the summer. We had the U.S. premiere at the New York Film Festival, and before we showed the film at the New York Film Festival, we actually brought a screen and speakers and set it up in the diner of Willets Point, Marco's diner, the Master Deli, and we showed the film to the people that we worked with there, and they were really, that was the most sort of interactive and participatory screening, because people were, you know, talking with the screen, and they would get excited when someone would show up in a scene, or when someone else showed up, they would, you know, holler, and this is this kind of wonderful back and forth call and response between what was happening on the screen and what was happening in the diner. But the place is still standing, and the city, from what we understand, it's not very transparent, but the city owns about 80% of the land now, so they've been able to acquire most of the land, but they haven't begun to actually change the space. They haven't knocked anything down yet, because I think there's a question of the budget. The cities, you know, because of the economic recession, things have slowed down. They made this plan to take over the space before 2008, and then 2008 hit, and they have less of the financial means to do that. And now, actually, within the city government itself, there's been voices of perhaps doubt about whether or not they could actually do the things that they wanted to do. The redirecting of the highways, the transformation of the space now is beginning to look kind of quite ambitious and perhaps implausible. So people are within the city starting to raise a kind of critique of the program. Well, we've done extensive sound recordings, but we have not begun to give it a kind of shape or structure. Right now, they're just individual, so we'll have individual isolated sounds. We also have environmental sounds, and they're tracked and categorized, but we don't have a plan yet of how to present that. Once we start to have time to sit down, Verena and I, to work through that, we'll begin to sort of think of a structure, an organizing principle. We're also thinking of going back. Right now, Verena is in Boston and I'm in Beijing, but we're thinking of going back soon to Willets Point to make another film. This time, sort of more quasi-hybrid fiction, nonfiction, to sort of develop some scripts, to develop a script that we could, or a screenplay that we could use in the space. Again, making the film with the people of Willets Point. But there's certain things that we didn't quite get at in foreign parts that we'd like to sort of explore further. Grazie.